Yesterday, I had a conversation with a client oriented around their programming and their goals, and we were just talking about how hard to push. And we got a little philosophical, but it really came down to the fact that he's got to push hard enough to challenge his body to put on muscle. And we talked about motor unit recruitment. And I talk about this to some people who are interested and wanting to learn more about training. I think it's really important to learn about the physiology of training slowly over time. It doesn't mean you have to, but the more you understand some of these things, the more you can ebb and flow with training. And it basically came down to like, you got to be pushing into, RPE 7, 8, 9 on a regular basis. You maybe even need to do as many reps as possible sets. You need to challenge yourself appropriately because we have to recruit a high level of motor units to drive progress over time. And what I mean by that is you basically have to call into action more and more muscle mass to then have your body say, oh, this is a challenge. We need to add more muscle so that this challenge is no longer as threatening to us. Basically, if we make it so that like 135 pounds is no longer 90% for you, it becomes 70%. It is because your body said, let's build more muscle, or let's get better at recruiting more muscle so that that task becomes easier. Your body is always trying to make stuff relatively easy, right? That's why people who just try to maintain often actually do not make progress, or they don't even maintain, because to some degree you have to be challenging yourself enough for your body to be like, okay, this is normal life. We have to maintain a set point that is here. It's when you kind of take the foot off the pedal, so to speak, that you actually kind of drift towards low performance. And that's a feature of a lot of complex systems. So when you're thinking about training and how hard it should be, obviously start with where you are. But think about the fact that if you're trying to put on muscle, if you're trying to create positive adaptations over time, it has to be physiologically stimulating enough to drive the adaptations you want. So in the case of my client, he wants to put on some more muscle. So we're going to do training that's closer to failure. That might also merit maybe a little bit more recovery, different overarching programming, but his brain needs to say that was challenging, or his body needs to say that was challenging. I need to put on muscle so that it is no longer as challenging and as threatening to me. And that's the game over and over in a lot of different ways. But hopefully this kind of helps you conceptualize the reason that we need to build muscle and the reason that we need to appropriately push ourselves to do so. That's all I got for today. Peace.